Well, hello. Welcome to the Creative Writing Life podcast. I'm Paul Zeidman. My co host, Justin Sloan, once again, unfortunately, unable to attend today. So I have the pleasure of being the sole interviewer with a screenwriter and director, Brad Johnson. Brad, thank you for being on the show today.
Great to be here, Paul. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's wonderful to have you. We've got some really fascinating stuff to talk about. I've known Brad for a good number of years. We've met in person even a couple of times, even before Austin. And this project of his, it's great for someone like me on so many levels. But we'll get into that in just a minute. So, as regular viewers and listeners of the show are aware, we like to start off talking about maybe things we've read or watched recently and whether we liked them or we hated them. And I will go first so Brad can gather his thoughts and think about what he wants to talk about. My wife was out of town last week, so I got to watch a lot of movies. There's a little kind of like an art house theater down the street from us, and they were showing In the Heat of the Night. And so I got to see that. It was the first time I'd ever seen the whole thing and seeing it on the big screen. And wow, it still holds up. It's from '67. It won Best Picture and a few other awards, including Best, I think, Adapted Screenplay, but I'm not entirely sure. But it was just still powerful, still really good. Loved it. Sidney Poitier and Rod Steiger as the leads. That was great. Same theater over the weekend. They were showing the original Star Wars trilogy, so I had to flip a coin to decide which one I was going to see. So I ended up going to see Empire. It's probably, in the 100th time I've seen it. Still love it. Still really effective. Lots of fun. And I was in the mood for something. I just wanted to cleanse my palate. I needed something really silly, so I watched 65, which is on Netflix, and that was from last year. That's Adam Driver as a astronaut or something crash lands on Earth, and dinosaurs are involved, and silly, full of tropes, a lot of cliches, but still enjoyable. It's one of those you can put it on and just have it on in the background if you wanted to. But that was it. So I enjoyed all three of them really. So Brad, what have you been up to, movie or reading wise?
Well, I guess on the movie front, the most recent thing I saw was American Fiction,
Hmm.
which just really, really enjoyed. It's so well done. It's so funny and so timely, and looking forward to seeing it get some recognition at the Academy Awards coming up. And then my wife and I are binging our way through Peaky Blinders right now,
Okay.
which it's always been on my list for a long time and just never, one of those ones that you never get around to. So we started that and we're into season 3 right now, and it's fantastic. If anyone has been wondering whether they should check it out or not, highly recommend it.
Which streaming platform is that on?
It's on Netflix.
Oh, it's on Netflix. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Cool. Well, yeah, that's and it's Cillian Murphy in the lead. I
it
know that.
is. Yeah, yeah. It's basically, early 20th century English gangsters.
Hmm.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So, Brad, let's talk a little bit about you. First, you are a screenwriter and a director. So, are you the type of writer that you've been a writer as long as you can remember, or you kind of got to it later on? You were kind of like, I'm not that into reading and writing, and then you discovered, hey, I've actually enjoyed this. I'm good at it. I want to do it more.
No, I've always been a writer at heart. A lot of people have that moment where someone tells them they're good at it. That happened to me in middle school. We had
Mhm.
we had an assignment to write a short story, and I wrote like a short horror story. And my teacher pulled me aside and said, "You're pretty good at this. You might want to think about being a writer." And I've never forgiven her for that advice.
Of course.
Right. Um, so, but it wasn't really probably until like late high school, early college when I like fully realized that screenwriting was a thing that someone could try to do as a career.
Hmm.
When with all of the indie film stuff coming out in 94, 95, and you started seeing things like the Pulp Fiction script be published, or my first book of screenplays was 3 screenplays by Ed Burns, and doing the Brothers McMullen and all of that. And so that really kind of keyed me in on to what this format was, and I've always loved movies, and I've been trying to do that ever since. I got into the directing and producing and other aspects of it more recently, but always been a writer.
So is that something you've explored a little bit more lately? That you, I guess it's more short films, or are you like dabbling in features?
I'd like to eventually get to a feature. It feels, appropriate to start with a short and learn the ropes of directing. But we did our first short. The team that I was working with, we filmed in 2022. Finished post production in early spring of 23, and now that short film, which is called Chat, is out on the film festival circuit and doing pretty well. Got a couple of awards here and there. So,
Very nice.
it's nice for the whole team and all the effort that everyone put in it to be recognized. And I'd like to do maybe one or two more shorts just to kind of wrap my head around it a little bit more, and then try my hand at a feature.
I have to ask about because I'm actually getting ready to make my first short. So is it? It just seems like there's so many hats to wear and so many fires to put out. Even before you start on production, it's just about trying to get organized and set everything up. And just it seems like the list never
It
ends.
is. Yeah, it's the what made it so like such a good experience for me really was I got super lucky in terms of the team that was able to surround myself with, and that's
Hmm.
really the key on something like that. Is like with so many other things, is like find the smartest, best people you can and like get them to agree to work with you. And uh, you know, my you know was working with Kim Hornsby as a co-producer. She wrote the script for what we felt for Chat and was co-producer. So we worked really hard on a lot of the pre-production stuff. And then we had Luke Swanziger, who was our first AD as well as our editor, and it also helped produce. And he wore so many hats, and he's got a ton of experience. So it was really great to be able to rely on him to avoid some pitfalls that we may have otherwise fallen into. So yeah, if you're stepping out to make your first short, that's exciting,
Mm.
and look forward to seeing what you do. But definitely just like find people who have done it before and are open to collaboration.
Yeah, I've actually been very lucky. I connected with a director that she's really talented and she's had some very successful shorts before, and she's really excited about it. And so,
That's great.
yeah, so we're really, we're still in the early planning stage, but it's all right now. It's about trying to get the crew together and trying to organize things and some of the marketing materials and just. Like I said, it's a little overwhelming at times, but I'm doing my best to kind of like keep steady throughout the whole process.
That's great. When are you thinking you're gonna? When are you hoping to shoot? I
We are
should say.
hoping to shoot right now mid-April, but we're probably going to launch a crowdfunding campaign because just what we need, and
Yeah.
really trying to, I guess the word is utilize as many resources as possible that are easily accessible. So it ends up we might end up shooting in my house just
There you
because
go.
it's easier for location. And about even like my wife's been recruited, like she may handle the craft services that weekend. So that sort
Hey,
of thing.
yeah, a well-fed crew is a happy
Hmm.
working crew. So
That's I have heard that. I have heard that, and
it's very, very true.
I've already started making the rounds at local restaurants asking about food donations, and yeah, we'll give you screen credit and we'll send you a copy of the movie, and we can't pay you, but this is what's known as a shoestring budget.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so looking forward to it. Kind of nervous, kind of excited, but I wrote this script like 4 years ago, and I've really wrote it with the intention of wanting to make it as a short, and came close about a year and a half ago, but that kind of fell apart. And just when the 2024 started, I kind of said to myself, "This is one of the things I want to accomplish this year, is I want to get this short finished." And
Yeah,
so it's closer now than it has been in the past. So
well, that's awesome.
fingers
Congratulations.
crossed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If
We'll
there's
see how it
anything we
goes.
can do to help, obviously,
Oh,
I'm
trust me,
available.
I will be putting the word out to everybody I know in the writing community.
Yeah.
But okay, so Brad, the reason I wanted to have you on today is because, as you mentioned, you are a screenwriter, but you're also a big supporter of the screenwriting community, and you are doing that in the form of the Gray List. So, kind of talk us through like what was the inspiration for it, and what has the response been? And this, I believe, this is the second year, so
It
kind of like
is.
start us from the beginning. What was the impetus for wanting to do this?
Well, I mean, other than a little bit of um, self-centered interest in the topic of older writers still trying
Okay.
to break into the industry, really what it came from was I kind of got a little frustrated and tired of constantly seeing top 30 under 30 lists and things like that, or the screenwriters to watch lists always tend to be like people in their 20s and their 30s.
Hmm.
And and there are also a lot of um, there are a lot of initiatives and programs out there that are meant to help highlight the voices of historically underrepresented uh, communities of writers. And those are obviously super important, and getting more voices heard is a key passion of mine. But I've noticed that a lot of those initiatives that already existed um, didn't include age as one of the focus areas that they were trying to highlight. And so kind of all of that brought together, I thought, well, what if we did a essentially not a top 40 over 40 list, and so started trying to put those thoughts together in terms of what that would look like and how that might function. And as I was starting to kind of percolate on that, another writer and supporter of the community, Ash Laser, uh, put out the first edition of the Stunt List, which
Mm.
is a list that he puts together and puts out annually, highlighting various writers and their scripts. And so I reached out to Ash and kind of asked him about the process he had just gone through and what advice he had. And we were already friends, but we grew closer by commiserating over how much hard work goes into putting these things together.
Hmm.
Um, and he was kind enough to let us even use his website that first year because we didn't have our own website at the time, and so he let us host there, and it went really well. I wasn't sure. I thought it was worth the effort to put into it because it's an issue that is important to me, but I wasn't sure if anybody else would, care, honestly.
Hmm.
You never know till you put it out there, right? And but when the first issue or the first list came out, response was really, really good. A lot of positive response. We got, multiple read requests for the writers that were featured on the list. One of our writers now has a director and a producer attached to their film. Um, it, that they directly tie into the additional exposure that their script got by being on the list. It wasn't necessarily someone that contacted them through the list, but the additional exposure helped them make connections and get the ball rolling on that. And that's really the whole point of it. If we can help one writer get exposure or meet the manager that's going to be the right manager for them, or
Hmm.
get a producer interested in something and help them get some traction on a project that means something to them, that's really what it's all about.
Okay, so I know that the process is that you can nominate a script.
Yeah.
So, because I would, full disclosure, I took part in this year's grade list. That you
Yeah,
can
we're
nominate
happy.
a script, you can nominate yourself, but you also nominate other writers. So, do you have an idea for, I guess, is this, so the one that just came out, is this the 2023 list or the 2024 list?
So the one that's coming out or just came out in February is the 2024 list.
Okay, so for
Uh,
the 2024 list, do you happen to know how many nominations you got? And I know you don't put everybody on that
yeah,
of
we
the
we
of
couldn't.
okay. So of the nominations, so how many nominations did you get? And then how many scripts ended up being on the actual list?
So we got just around 800 nominations
Wow.
during the submission window, and all told, it was right around 250 unique scripts. So multiple nominations
Okay.
for multiple scripts. So 250 unique scripts were nominated, and about 50 are on the final list.
Wow.
And yeah, and it's I think it is important to say when we're talking about the list that inclusion on the list isn't or I inclusion on the list is a sign of quality because we're putting product
Sure.
market ready scripts on the list, but non-include not making it on the list is not a sign of lacking in quality. It really is just no one's going to scroll through a PDF of 250 different scripts.
Yeah.
Right, there has to be it has to be narrowed down somehow, and we just try to make as inclusive and representative a list as we can based on the types of scripts that we get submitted to us.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what was the criteria for narrowing it down to you at 250? So,
Yeah.
cutting 200 scripts. I mean, I know, perusing, Twitter and social media while you were getting scripts that people would do script shout outs like, oh, I submitted the script to the gray list and someone said, oh, I read this. It was great. I can't wait to nominate it. Or, I was lucky. So a few people got back to me about my script that said, I really liked it and I want to nominate it. So, I mean, what kind of factors did you take into consideration to whittle down that 250 to 50?
Really, we try to use, as objective criteria as we can.
Okay.
So we start with the nomination window, which we've been talking about, which is like usually a 2 month window where anybody can submit. And so we're crowdsourcing from the screenwriting community the scripts that people are excited about, right? So that's one way that a script can be raised to the top for consideration, is just number of people that are saying this is a great script that I believe deserves a spotlight.
Okay.
On top of that, then the other ways that something can rise to the top is, maybe they're not people that share their scripts a lot with the rest of the community, so they don't get a lot of reads, so they're not going to get a lot of nominations coming in. But their script placed really well in an important or prestigious format. It did well on the nickel, or it
Mm.
made it to the semi second round or the semi or finals at Austin, or one of those type of places. So that's another way. And then the third way is, honestly, it can be just someone that's already working in the industry, a working writer who reaches out and says, I recommend this person. I've read this
Mhm.
person. They have the goods. The script is good, and they deserve a little bit of spotlight. So it's a mixture of those three things. And then once we kind of have the pool, it's about going through that. And like I said, just trying to just get a good wide ranging sample. Cause like no one wants it to be, 50 white guys, right?
Right.
And so we try to get a good mix of male, female. We try to get, not all white writers, and get writers of color. We try to get LGBTQ representation as just as big of a swath. And then also from just topics, we try to get a good mixture of pilots and features
Hmm.
from across a bunch of different genres, so that there's hopefully something for everybody who's checking it out. And if there's a producer that's looking over the list, or a manager that's looking over the list, the idea is, if we do a good enough job, at least one thing on the gray list will be in their wheelhouse and could
Mhm.
potentially interest them. So that's why I say that, like, the 200 scripts that got nominated that aren't on the list, there's a lot of really fantastic scripts in that list. It's just not feasible, obviously, to feature everybody.
Right, right. Yeah, one of the things that I noticed, I remember when you announced that you were doing this year's edition, is that to nominate a script, and I guess I wasn't comfortable just like saying, "Hey, Joe Writer, I'm going to nominate your script." I would say, I'm happy to nominate your script, but I want to read it first." And so I
Right.
actually got probably about like 15 writers who said, "Hey, I would love to have you read it, and if you think it's great, and if you think it's worth being on the great list, please nominate it." And all of them were really good. I mean, I some of them are writers I've read before, so
Yeah.
I was familiar with their work. And for some of them, it was they went in a whole new direction of what I was used to. Like one guy, he wrote kind of like a silly comedy, and this one was also a silly comedy, but it took place on the moon, so it was very different. And it was I think that really helped just kind of get a better idea of what the level of quality was for the scripts that
Yeah.
you were being sent, because these were all really, really strong samples. And some of them were just mind-blowingly well written. And it was like I really had to finish the script before I had to tell the writer, yeah, I'm more than happy to nominate it because this is a great piece of work.
Yeah, there is so much talent that's out there. It's really wonderful to get to see all the different stories and all the different ways that people are telling them, and get to, if I could include everybody on it,
Sure.
I would, because they're all deserving, and it's but yeah, it's a really fun and rewarding process. It's a lot of work, but it's worth it at the end.
Okay, now that the list is out, so what now? I mean, you post it on your site, and I'm guessing you'll just promote it to no end on social media. So I mean, so say someone gets to look at the list and they say, hey, this script sounds really cool. Is the contact information there for them to contact the writer? Because I know you were asking about like the first PDF of the first page. And is it just, and also, do you want to have the script made available to the public, or is it by request only? I mean, so kind of talk us through that.
So we want to be flexible and let writers engage with the list at whatever level they're comfortable. So some of the writers are like, yeah, just have a link to the PDF of the full script. Anyone can read it. I'm fine with that. So for those people, that's what we do. You can, when you see them, you can click on it. It'll pull up the PDF of the script, and you can enjoy. Other people are more concerned, or some of them are concerned with it being open read. Some of them just prefer to have more visibility into who's reading
Hmm.
their script. So they've made instead they're asking for requests. So if you're interested, you can click the button and it'll basically open an email to the
Hmm.
requesting to read the script, and then they can decide whether or not to forward it through or not. But at least then they know who's asking. Other people have links to other places, like to their Coverfly
Hmm.
account or someplace like that, where they're already hosting the script. So it's a mixture depending on the writer, but we want it
Okay.
to make it as easy as possible for people to
Got it.
engage.
So one of the things that I'm sure a lot of writers are wondering slash hoping for is that, someone from the industry wants to read it. So I guess my question is like, how does the link to the site or information about the site get out there? Is it just, hopefully, like if someone at a management firm, sees the post and says, oh, hey, I want to click on this, and then they start like looking through the log lines or however you have it listed. I mean,
Yeah.
are you targeting anybody, or is it just kind of like, okay, we're putting it out there for the general public, which includes reps and producers?
So it's kind of all of the above. Obviously, there's the public release, right?
Okay.
Which is, when it goes live on my website and the PDF, it's viewable on the web, and the PDF can be downloaded. It's promoted, and then I'll be, like you said, promoting the heck out of it on social media,
Hmm.
and getting all that out there. I'm also working with um, several different organizations that have their own mailing list, and some of them have agreed to help promote the list in that way. So there'll be emails going out from different organizations to the people that they have to get more visibility, and those lists do include industry professionals. And then I also have just basically made my own mailing list just of industry people, and been communicating with them to basically they can opt in for early access to the list, which means that
Hmm.
2 days before the list went public, those industry professionals received an email with the PDF so that they can look through it and make contact with any writers that are of interest to them, before anyone that's not on that list gets a chance to see it, so they can get first dibs on the writers that they're most excited to engage with. So yeah, obviously we want to just celebrate the writers and get it out there.
Hmm.
But ultimately the goal continues to be to grow and expand our ability to get the writers in front of people who can make a difference for these writers. whether that's a manager or a producer or an agent or whomever.
I guess for me that raises the question, like, are you targeting like maybe managers or producers that specialize in something like this place they really work with a lot of comedic writers, or this they only want horror or that kind of thing, or is it just kind of like we're just looking for quality writers?
Well, so obviously, yes, there are going to be. We've got our list, our email list of industry people is all types. It's not just general. It's some people that are very specific in terms of the type of things that they go for. But we're sending out the same list to all of them. That's why we try to make it very clear through the log line and the supporting artwork and the poster and stuff and the comps that we list, like
Okay.
exactly like what type of story this is, so that they don't have to make a request and read the script and like, oh, well, this isn't what I thought it was. So we try to
Okay.
make it as straightforward as possible, in terms of being able to tell what kind of story is being presented.
Okay, so here's the biggest question. How can the general public access the gray list?
So they can go to my website, which is bradmjohnson.com. You'll find a link for the gray list there, and you can peruse on the website, or you can download the PDF and look through it that way. Or you can find me on Twitter at my handle is at RWW and you can find, I'm sure at the point that this is coming out, some post about the gray list will be my pinned tweet. So
Oh,
if you don't see anything live happening, just go to my pinned tweet and you'll be able to see a link there as well.
and I'm sure if someone just goes to Google and types in, the gray list screenwriting, I'm sure it'll give you a
Yep,
whole
all
bunch of
that'll
links.
probably come up as well. Yeah.
Okay, so here's another question. So this year the 2024 list is out and available. So what if
Yep.
a writer is just finding out about this and said, "I can't believe I missed this." So like, how do they get ready for next year?
So our open submission window is usually at the end of the year. For the list that just came out, the window was open in November and December of 2023.
Okay.
Um, so some point towards the end of the year, the submission window for 2025 will open. Up until that point, it's the same kind of advice I would give anybody, which is just continue to polish your script, develop the supporting materials, whether that's a poster or a lookbook or a pitch deck or something like that, and just engage with the writing community, get your stuff read, get the feedback, find the people that love your script, and find you. If we open again in November, that's 9 months for you to get people excited about your script, and then reach out to them when the window is open and say, "Hey, remember that script you loved? would you mind nominating me for the gray list?" And yeah, just using the time for that, I think is probably the best use of time.
And also, just speaking from my own experience, get out there and read other people's scripts. So you're happy to
Yes.
nominate them for the gray
Yes.
list because, it does a writer. It really, not that it's boosting their ego, but it makes them feel really good about themselves and their writing when someone says, "Hey, I remember reading your script, back in June, and I would love to nominate this for the gray list."
Yeah, that's a great point. Start keeping your own list. Like, I mean, we as writers, we're all spending a lot of time in solitary.
Hmm.
And it can mean a lot just to have someone say, "I believe in your script," and want to share it with this organization or this initiative that's going on. So that's always fun to hear as a
Oh yeah,
screenwriter.
very good. So writers, you've got your homework for the year. So you have to start getting ready, have those scripts ready to go for November and December, and start reading other people's scripts because it's great to just read scripts
Absolutely.
in general, and also build up that support network of yours with all the other writers that you know on social media, because they're in the same boat as you, and we're all trying to help each other out, and this is probably one of the best ways you can do that. Just support other writers, and be positive and encouraging, and they will most likely, hopefully, do that for you as well. Okay, so this is Brad Johnson, and the website is bradmjohnson.com. The Gray List, which is out now, you can check it out. As he said, there's a link on his website. And was it RWW Films?
Singular film,
Oh,
RWW.
RWW Film, because that was because I remember. Okay, full disclosure, I interviewed Brad for my blog. Wow, that's like 10 years ago now,
Yeah, that was a bit.
and I was like, what does RWW stand for? I believe it was Read, Write, Watch.
Read, watch, write.
Oh,
But
so
yeah, no, good
close.
memory. 10 years ago. That's
I
great.
just remember because it was such a distinct Twitter handle, and I thought, it's not his name, and it's definitely not his initials. It was like, why RWW? Oh, Read, Watch, Write. And I said, oh.
I I always struggle with that because my name is extremely common. So
Hmm.
anytime I am not like the first person onto a platform, my name has already gone as a handle option. So I had to figure something else
Now
out
you didn't
there.
want to be Brad Johnson, 8241,
Exactly.
because people are going to think you're a bot. Okay. So again, the website is bradmjohnson.com. That's where you can find a link to the Gray List. Brad, thank you so much. This has been great. And we highly encourage all readers, all listeners and viewers to check it out, see what scripts are on the Gray List. Maybe one will grab your attention, strike your fancy, pique your curiosity, and you'll want to read it. Just, go ahead, contact that writer because they would love to hear from you.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. I can almost guarantee if someone takes the time to look through the list, you'll find something that makes you want to read it. So,
Excellent. And
yeah,
sometimes you'll find a script you didn't even think you were going to like, and like, hey, that sounds pretty cool, and I don't even like horror. And that kind of it happens all the time. Okay, Brad, thank you so much. This has been a fantastic interview. Really appreciate you coming on today.
of course. Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. And before I go, so regular viewers and listeners know my co-host Justin has not been able to attend any of the recordings lately because he got a new day job right before the end of 2023. So his schedule has just been like that, and so his timing to be able to make recordings has been kind of really tough for him. And he's also doing all of his own writing, as we've talked about many times, with his screenwriting and his books and all of the now is his new job writing for games. So Justin has unfortunately decided to step away from doing the podcast. So it's going to just be me now. So it's going to be the Creative Writing Life with Paul Zeidman. Going to do my best to keep it going. Have fantastic guests, just like Mr. Johnson here. It will. I have no idea what it's going to look like or how things are going to develop, but I'm really looking forward to keeping things going as long as I can. I hope you stay along for the ride. I've been really happy with all the support we've been getting from viewers and listeners. And send those comments, hit that like button, whatever support you can offer. I am more than happy to get it. And so it's we're entering new territory here, and it's very exciting for me, and hopefully very exciting for you. And I hope you stay along for the ride because I would really appreciate it. So thank you once again to Justin for taking part all these years that we were doing the podcast together. I'll still give him a plug. You can check out his stuff on Amazon, Justin Sloan. This is Brad from bradmjohnson.com. I am Paul Zeidman. You can check out my screenwriting blog, maximumz.blog. It's all about screenwriting and other stuff. You can also check out my books on Amazon, the Go Ahead and Ask series about screenwriting and pie. I'm on social media on Twitter at maximum_Z. I'm also on Instagram at Pez Screenwriting PEZ. Yes, those are my initials. Like I said, I'm Paul. That's Brad. Thanks to Justin for all the great work he's put in over the years. This has been the Creating Writing Life podcast. It still will be that. In the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, and most importantly, go write something.